After the failed counteroffensive of the armed forces of Ukraine, military experts began to wonder when and where the Russian army would launch its own counteroffensive, since the prevailing situation at the front indicated that the Russians were gradually taking the initiative and were building a profitable springboard for launching future offensive operations. Moreover, unlike the armed forces of Ukraine, the Russian army does not play for the public and tries not to advertise its successes on the battlefield. Moreover, the Russian High Military Command does not contact journalists and keeps in complete secrecy all its plans regarding not only the future counteroffensive, but also military operations in the long term. All this forced experts to guess and make assumptions about the future strike of the Russian army. Everyone was sure that the Russian army would begin its counteroffensive with a powerful strike in the Kupiansk direction, since the Russian army has significant strategic successes here. And judging by the fact that the Ukrainian military command began transferring reserves to the Kupiansk direction, the Kiev authorities were also confident that it was in this direction that the counteroffensive of the Russian army would begin. However, as subsequent events have shown, the experts and the Ukrainian military command were deeply mistaken. The Russian army launched an offensive, but in a completely different place. So, early in the morning of October 10th, war correspondents and numerous military TG channels announced that the Russian army had launched an offensive in the AVDIIVKA direction. At the same time, war correspondents emphasized the unprecedented power and number of Russian artillery in this direction. According to them, the Russian artillery works so smoothly and tightly that it causes trembling of the earth. Moreover, it is also reported that the Russians have begun to use combat aircraft in mass, destroying Ukrainian positions with the help of ultra-powerful smart bombs of the FAB family. At the same time, in the first minutes of the attack, Russian artillery managed to destroy not only enemy strongholds, but also warehouses with Western weapons, located in AVDIIVKA itself. All this indicates that the Russians knew where to strike, and that this attack had been planned for many months. According to insiders, the Ukrainian military command is in shock. No one expected that the Russians would launch an attack on the AVDIIVKA direction, since this section of the front was considered the most protected and powerful in terms of defensive structures and concrete barriers. Since 2014, with the help of British military engineers, the armed forces of Ukraine has been turning AVDIIVKA into a real fortress, and therefore, everyone was sure that the Russians would never launch an attack on this sector of the front. However, the Russians again showed NATO their unpredictability, and struck where least expected. Moreover, the head of the military administration of the city of AVDIIVKA, Vitaly Barabash, said that the armed forces of Ukraine began to retreat under the onslaught of Russian artillery and military aviation. According to him, the Ukrainian army was sure that the Russians would launch an attack only in November, and that the direction of the attack would be the city of Kupiansk. Vitaly Barabash also called for punishing all those who made such a terrible strategic miscalculation and allowed the Russians to strike an unexpected blow. Moreover, information was also received that the Ukrainian army had fled from the village of BORZZIKMAN, and that the Russians had already begun cleaning up this settlement. Analyzing the situation, experts concluded that with such an offensive pace, the Russians will be able to surround Avdiivka by the end of this week,